Oh, okay, so hopefully I wasn't just muted that whole time. I very well could have been. I should at least be live now, so if I wasn't live before, we'll jump on board with Thule as he makes his way through turns 1 and 2 into DRS zone number 1. Of course, blasting down into turn 3, hard braking zone, and got, tight 90-degree. Yeah, I was muted. I realized that. I had to go into settings and correct that. Yeah, I think I pulled a Xercity, I think. But anyway, Thule making his way through now into Sector 2, of course, through turns 6 and 7, and into this second DRS zone, which should be, there it is, there's the wing open, and of course, into the very high-speed turns 9 and 10, would love a little camera a little bit more to the inside, a little bit loose there on exit for the AlphaTauri driver as he blasts his way now through the third DRS zone into turn number 11. Now it's into this back end of Sector 3, which is surprisingly challenging as compared to the rest of the track. It's pretty low speed, of course, through 12, and now the final little left-right of 13 and 14, and this long right-hander is really crucial to finishing a lap. Thule with a good exit there. The AlphaTauri driver will come across the line, and the benchmark for everybody to chase is going to be a 1.8. He's got a couple of drivers behind him. I believe most are on out laps. I believe it's a Haas of Thomas D, who is on a push lap, however, so the Haas will be the next to cross the line. Of course, did have to deal with a little bit of traffic late on in that lap. DRS open in the back of that Haas. Where will Thomas go to? It's a 1:18.8, so probably a mistake early on in for that Haas, who will dive out of the way. I believe I got a couple of cars coming across the line. We have VDV Alley. I think a lot of the field getting ready to start their laps, so we'll jump on board with the Mercedes for the moment. VDV Alley with a 1:18.4, and Waits with also a 1:18.49. So Alley in second. Joner jumps up the board with a 1:18.3, so he'll currently sit second. So Thule pretty well clear up at the front as it stands. Let's see if anybody is coming towards the end of the lap. It's an Alfa Romeo and an Alpine. That's Pingy coming around the final corner now. And I believe the Alpine behind him is Gawoon Jamie or Jojo, who had a mistake. Pingy goes 5th fastest. Speedy, as we were talking, went 7th quickest. Let's see if that Alpine jumps up the board. No, not quite. So we'll jump on board with the second AlphaTauri of Oni, who has actually stayed in the pit lane. That was somebody coming in. So we'll jump on board with Wingish, just coming to the end of his lap. Of course, won the race last time out at the Circuit Zandvoort. Wingish comes across the line with 13 minutes left to go and goes right to the top. That's a 1:16.8, so he's over a second clear and really on it in this Australian street circuit. I believe it's an Alpine next to cross the line. Is that Gawoon Jamie? It is. He'll go second fastest. That's a 1:17.6, and behind him is one of the Mercedes duo. That's Viperize, who beats his teammate to go 5th fastest. There's a Ferrari of Moycool, meanwhile, a 1:17.3, so a good first lap from him. And if you'll excuse me for a second, I am going to send our 20th driver a quick invite, just to make sure that he has one. Of course, that will be Elian Bayan. So apologies for this briefly. Just want to make sure that he is all set. All right, there we go. And so, let's see. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did. Gawoon Jamie, though, did go 3rd fastest while I was away briefly. A 1:17.6, rather respectable. There is a spun Williams there. That was JM. Luckily on an outlap, I think also just trying to get out of the way of another car. Q2XC on the lap did invalidate there. Definitely keep an eye on this during the race, as track limits penalties, especially if we do get changeable or just straight up wet conditions during the course of this race, could be very interesting for track limits penalties. It's really easy, especially at points in that second sector, to just dip a wheel a little bit further on, or maybe hit that curb on the inside of turn number 11 and really get your car just kicked right out wide. So we'll have to keep an eye and see if QDXC can jump back up the board. I guess in terms of people on the lap, Gawoon Jamie on an in-lap, Curry as well, currently sitting P6 in that Aston Martin, so very, very comfortably. And of course, still a lot of time to go for those times to drop. Of course, hope you all are doing well. Of course, those of you in the U.S. Probably going to be away. No, it's wild card weekend, so definitely looking forward to that. Even if we're going to miss, even if some of us are going to miss the Peacock game now. But there should be some interesting games today. Pingy invalidated there, and a couple of drivers piling out of the pit lane for their first push laps. Looks like Jay, though, only driver on track on a lap at the moment. Let's see if he finishes. Let's see how he finishes here. I also realize I don't have the lap data up, so I should probably open that. JM, meanwhile, to the line. That lap time good enough for 5th, so a 1:18.0 puts him fairly comfortable into P5 as of right now. So a good showing from him early on. We'll jump on board with Oni on a good lap at the moment. Of course, coming into turn number 11. Again, you really want to take this tight, but because of how big of a sausage curve it is on that right side, you kind of want to avoid that. You also want to avoid running too wide on exit, as that curbing can bottom you out really easily. But here comes the second AlphaTauri driver through the final corner. Of course, his teammate currently sitting P4. Where can the second AlphaTauri jump to? He'll just about pip his teammate, so he'll take P4, and Thule drops to P5. So 1:17.7 for Oni. Very good opening kind of look from him. Thule invalidated. He was down quite a bit. So we'll at least jump on board with, I believe, Joner for the minute, who will be the first of this kind of second group to get a lap in. So, of course, here comes the Haas blasting his way down into turn number 3. Of course, you got the two slow speed portions of the circuit, kind of that first sector and that final sector a little bit loose there from the Haas as he makes his way out of turn 4 and into turn 5. And, of course, down through that first sector, just about matched his first lap time. Of course, he's going to need at least 3/10 if he wants to pull any time back. And, of course, coming up to traffic, it's both his teammate and a Ferrari. Of course, everybody getting out of the way. So we'll see him blast through the very fast turns number 9 and 10. And he has, once again, kind of matched those first two sectors and really, utilizing all that track there on the exit. Of course, now down into turn 11, hard braking. Kind of want to come out of here in either 3rd or 4th gear. Uses all the track he can manage. Pretty good showing as of right now. Through turn 12, fairly comfortable. So just 2 more corners left to go, and probably one of the most important traction zones on the circuit. And out onto the pit straight. So the Haas currently sitting at P7. Can he jump up the board at all? He will. He'll gain a 1/10.5, but that won't be enough to improve. Wingish, meanwhile, with the provisional pole sitter, up a 1/10.5 through the first 2 sectors, and he's already put a 1:16.8 on the board. So the McLaren absolutely rapid right now, as I believe that was Jojo potentially going 6th. Or no, it was, that was Jojo, I believe, going 6th fastest. Meanwhile, the provisional pole sitter out of the final couple of corners and to the line, a little bit loose there, but all held together. And Wingish to the line, that's going to be even further. That's going to be over a 2/10 improvement, and it's a 1:16.6 from Wingish in the McLaren. Behind him is going to be a Williams. That's going to be Waits coming to the line. Of course, currently sitting in P12. He'll come to the line. That'll be rather competitive. It's about a 2/10 improvement. Gets him up into P9 for the moment. He's got an Alfa Romeo now behind him. That is Pingy, who was getting ready for an outlap. So we'll jump on board with C. Luca, currently, who I think made a mistake at some point in that lap, or just kind of raring up for another one. So we'll have to come back to him. Meanwhile, it's one of the AlphaTauris on an outlap. Joner, I think, yielded to his teammate of Thomas, who's coming through the final couple of corners now. Of course, Haas finishing, I believe, 4th and 5th last time out, so very good showing for the Haas duo of Thomas and Joner. Here comes Thomas to the line. He'll jump up into P10, so another solid showing from him. And a couple of other drivers come to the line now. I believe that's one of the Ferraris. That is Moikul, who gains another 2/10, but still only good enough for P2 at the moment. As Viperize out of the session, I believe that was a crash as well. So Viperize out of qualifying. Of course, wanted our Group 2 drivers racing up. So good to see that. But yeah, definitely disappointing to see him out of qualifying, and hopefully he can pull that back in race conditions. I'm just going to try to find Elian once again, which hopefully we can get him in, as qualifying time is still a little bit limited. Anyways, I said it was good to see you in here. I said it was bad for you to crash. Don't you put words in my mouth. Anyways, I believe Thule is one of the few drivers on a push lap. That's a big slide from the AlphaTauri out of the final corner. The AlphaTauri Thule to the line. That's a 4/10 improvement, but good, which puts him P3. So 1:17.3 puts him fairly well clear of both Jamie and his teammate. So a good showing from him there, as we got a couple of cars. We got Moini Cooley doing some rally driving there in the Ferrari. Thule, meanwhile, that was actually his previous lap. So we'll jump on board with Pingy, as I believe... actually, QDFC is on a push lap as well. And it's a 44.3 through the first two sectors, really utilizing all that track there on the exit of turn number 10, and somehow not getting that track limits penalty. And really kind of holding that to the left. So here comes QDXC through the final three corners, and of course, I believe it's an Alfa Romeo spinning behind him. So that was Pingy with a bit of a mistake. So QDXC, of course, no time on the board just yet. Out of the final corner, here he comes to the line. QDXC will go third fastest, so a 1:17.2 from QDXC, and with his first time lap, puts a very respectable showing up on the board. Of course, we got a couple of drivers now, of course, on outlaps. Tommy XXC is on there. I believe it's one of the Alpines. Which one is that? That one is Jojo. So also showing well, currently sitting P7. Of course, is going to want to be going after his teammate with 4 minutes left to go in the session. Of course, there's one driver out, but a couple of drivers to not really set competitive lap times as of yet. Speed Gunner Luca and Kendricks, and even drivers such as Ali, Pingy, and Tommy. Probably still with improvements to go, as they're all probably in those laps. QDXC on an in lap, so we'll try to find somebody who will be on a push lap. I believe Tommy XXC might be. Yeah, I believe Tommy XXC just getting started, so we'll jump on board with McLaren in his lap as he approaches down into turn 3. Of course, you really utilizing all that track that he can. Of course, right, left, and then you want to really carry speed. You want to carry as much speed as you can once you get through turn 5, because there's only a really light tap on the brakes through 6 and 7, and then you're really going to want to push and get underway. Of course, Tommy XC coming up to the second timing marker. We'll have to see where he clocks in through the first two sectors as he approaches turns number 9 and 10. As he crosses the mark, he's up 6/10. So Tommy XXC really flying and is making a really big push to get up into that top 10. Of course, making his way down into turn number 11 now. Of course, hard braking, yellow flags, and really utilizing that track and attacking that curb. Of course, Williams just out of the way. Of course, coming into the final couple of corners now. Can he keep it together for these final corners? Of course, his teammate currently sits on provisional pole position. So we'll have to see. Can Tommy XXC make a push back up towards Wingish as he comes to the line? That lap time good enough for 7, so 1:17.8. Very solid for Tommy XXC as everybody piling out of the pit lane now. Of course, just 2 minutes left to go in qualifying. Waits just starting his lap, as are multiple other drivers. So we'll jump on board with Jojo, who I believe will be next. Actually, no, he invalidated his lap. Waits has just started. Luca up 39 seconds, so his lap time dropping fairly comfortably. So let's see if the Red Bull is currently sitting 17th and 18th. Let's see how much he can jump up the board. Out of the final corner now, and that star-spangled helmet to the line now. Can Luca jump up the board? Currently sits 18th, goes 8th fastest with a 1:17.9. Kendricks, meanwhile, sits 19th for Ferrari. He's just looking to set one lap in the section. That's a 45.6. Just starting the laps. Jamie, XXC is down. Luca, of course, picked up a whole bunch of time. Jonah in Sector 1. Waits is down, so he's looking to maybe take an extra recharge lap and get another lap in. Thomas, meanwhile, appears to have set a personal best through the first sector as that lights up purple in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. But we'll jump on board with Kendricks as he comes to the line. The Ferrari only good enough for 18th, so not a great lap from him. Of course, big spin there from Curry, and he's in the wall, and that's no front wing, so that Aston Martin going to start no better than 14th, and backs into the Red Bull. Which Red Bull was that? That's going to be a 5-place grid penalty for Curry, as he made a collision, made contact with Speedy Gunner, who was on a lap, and it's going to take another 5-place grid penalty for making contact with Oni, as that car just failed to ghost, and he's almost gets in the way of one of the Ferraris. I believe that was Kendricks, who was on an in-lap. So that's some big mistakes there. Moy Cool, meanwhile, I think down 6/10 because of that. That might have completely compromised his lap with only 30 seconds left to go. And Wingish about to match his first lap time. So here he comes out of the final corner. Big spin and big crash for the provisional pole sitter. So he will not improve as he just loses traction on the pit straight, so he will not improve. That's a Williams coming to the line. That'll be either, I believe it's JM just starting a lap before the buzzer. Just a couple seconds left to go. Moy Cool retires from the session. He doesn't think he'll improve. There's a Red Bull coming to the line. That's going to be Speedy Gunner, but he's well down. So we'll jump on board with VDV Ali as he comes around the final corner of the line. Qualifying is over in the top two. Out of the session, VDV Ali goes 7th fastest. I believe that's Kendricks diving into the pit lane, so it'll be an Aston Martin coming to the line next. That'll be Curry, who, of course, will start last after those grid penalties. Pingy out of the final corner. He'll come to the line, currently sitting 17th with that 1:18.5, looking with a good final lap time. That's a great lap time for him. He jumps all the way up into P6, the second Williams. Meanwhile, of Waits out of the final corner to the line. He'll go from 14th to 13th, so not a great improvement for that Williams. We've got the Haas of Joner. He's up 2/10 coming out of the final corner now. Can the Haas jump up the order at all? No, he's actually aborted that lap, so he will not improve. Let's see if anybody else is on a push lap. Gawoon Jamie, really the only driver who could jump up the board. He's down on his lap time, which means JM might be one of the final drivers to improve. He currently sits just ahead of his teammate in 12th, out of the final corner, and actually going to get a little bit of slipstream from the Alpine ahead of him. He'll go from 12th up into P6. He edges out Pingy, and so that means the last driver to put a time on the board would be Thomas, but he made a mistake early on in that lap, as there's no front wing on that Haas, so his qualifying is over. So will be Wingish once again on pole. Moy Cool potentially with a final chance in those dying seconds to put a lap time on the board, but did get impeded, at least to some extent, by Curry. Will start second. QDXC, the other Aston, will start third, and then you got Thule, Jamie, Jay, and Pingy. And of course, we do have Mike Surin, so we'll go ahead and keep him around, as hopefully he can stick around. Of course, did get reports of potentially wet weather conditions coming, but it is Wingish taking a fairly comfortable pole position. And then once you get down the order, it gets a lot tighter. Of course, you got Moy Cool second, but then 2/10 back is QDXC, Thule in third, Jamie in fifth, and then from Jamie down to Cita Luca in 11th. It's less than 4/10, so going to be a lot in it, especially once you get from fifth down. But that battle at the front could be very, very interesting as well if we end up seeing some changeable conditions. Of course, if you've got any predictions for the race, definitely feel free to go ahead and throw them in chat right now. I know we got a couple of drivers in there. Viperize touched grass, which is probably good, especially when I'm looking outside and I can see nothing but white after getting dumped with about 5 inches of snow yesterday. Love the northern Midwest, especially with it being the first winter here that I get properly. But thankfully, the my state's weather crews are absolutely on top of it. And now today, all they have to deal with is temperatures at 20 or -7 for you Europeans, using your inferior metric system and your Celsius. It would be -7. On your end, as I need to plug my controller in. That's probably a good thing, because I don't want my mic to die randomly. But anyway, drivers taking some time to get some settings in place, and dry at the moment, so we certainly could see more changeable conditions, as that seems to be what our drivers were reporting, and it looks like we will have 20 drivers. So we'll have to wait and see, as now, I think I can finally crack the Guinness. Oh, shit. And spill it all over my desk as the countdown's starting, so I can't clean it up. Shit! No! There's Guinness all over my desk, and now I have to clean up and commentate the start of the race. There's your predicted strategies from AWS. 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we are now underway here in Australia as I'm still cleaning up my floor, and it seems to be a poor getaway from one of the Williams. Muy Cool with a great start, and he's actually going to take the lead down into turn 1. The Ferrari taking the lead, a little bit of contact as there's a bit of scrambling behind, but the Ferrari and Muy Cool takes the lead. Yellow flags behind, but everybody seems to be underway without too much damage. But Muy Cool with a great start, able to get up the inside. Gawoon Jamie up into third, Oni in fourth, VDV, Thule, QDXC dropped a load of places, as did JoJo, as Waits already with a time penalty. That'll, of course, go to Steward's review, as I believe there is a bit of a track limits issue there, but it's Muy Cool with a 4/10 gap early on and already trying to make away from this secondary pack. Looking down the order, QDXC and Thule almost going side by side. There's a 10th, and it is Luca and Speedy swap places. Here comes the Aston trying to go around the outside of the AlphaTauri, but he'll jump back in the way, and they'll get back to single file through turns number 9 and 10. A little bit wide there, so a poor exit, and we'll get that give. QDXC the chance to go down the inside. He's looking to open the door. Of course, going to have to be late on the brakes here, side by side, and he gets up into P6. Meanwhile, Ali, as we just swapped there, I believe that's turn number 12 going around the outside. Thule as well with a 3-second time penalty. So a lot of time penalties early. Yellow flags behind. That's for a spun Alfa Romeo. That's for Pingy, who goes round. I believe there is still a rear wing on that car. And as we end lap 1, it's still a 4/10 gap between Muy Cool and Wingish here at the start. And they're already making a getaway from Jamie and Ali. Also, yes, my desk is clean now. I, for some reason, shook my Guinness, and so if you want a nice replaying clip, as Oni looks to go down the inside of Ali, they're going to go side by side, but the Mercedes able to defend and hold on to 4th place. QDXC right there in the background looking to make a move. Speedy gets Thomas in that battle for P13, and it's very tight here up behind Gawoon Jamie, so it's looking like a 2-horse race very early on here. Meanwhile, I believe that's from second back down to from third down to 11th, already forming a train. And here comes VDV Ali with a run. Kendrick and JM swapping places towards the rear. The AlphaTauri and the AlphaTauri and the Mercedes side by side. We're once again taking a look at those pit stop strategies. Soft to medium is on the board as a potential strategy. So is the medium hard. Of course, I'll go ahead and pull up the tire map for us, and it's a pretty big variety of tires. Muy Cool. We can now see why he got such a good start in comparison to those other drivers. As Curry dropping down the order, I believe might have been an incident back there as he started on those softs. Gawoon Jamie holding off Oni behind him on the mediums. QDXC on the softs as Wingish sets a new fast lap as DRS is now activated. So that's going to give this battle even more bite to it as we make our way through turns 1 and 2 with this kind of tail of the pack, and that gap up at the front sitting at about 4/10. Of course, got a little bit of a DRS train that's going to be started once we get to that second DRS zone, but we'll jump up to that battle at the front. That's a Haas in the pit lane. That's Thomas D going into the pit lane real fast. And of course, we're going to be up into the DRS zone. So Wingish right on the back of Muy Cool should be rather simple, as he's kept it really tight as he's got work to get those hards right into the frame that he wants them. Here he comes, looking down the inside. The McLaren and Ferrari side by side, and as they make their way into turns number 9 and 10, Wingish takes the lead of this race on lap number 3, but that gap still very close, but a second helping of DRS for the McLaren is going to allow him to stay out in front and pull that gap out a little bit. Meanwhile, towards the back, Jamie able to defend, QDXC and Ali going side by side again, and they're actually going to make a little bit of contact there. Luckily, they come out all right. QDXC still going to go down the inside of the Mercedes, who's now going to maybe fall victim to Thule as well, but he's going to defend and hold on to P3. Meanwhile, up at the front, got Muy Cool now going to have 2 helpings of DRS as we come down the pit straight to start lap number 4. Of course, that gap currently sitting at about 4/10 of a second. So here they come through turns number 1 and 2, and Wingish very comfortable through there. Able to pull out a bit of a gap. Meanwhile, the battle for P3. Here comes Oni for P3 as C. Luca dives in the pit lane. Here comes the AlphaTauri, of course, looking for that spot on the podium. He's going to be pinched very close out to that wall by the Alpine, but a very nice move rounding outside from Oni as we make our way into turns number 4 and 5, and the AlphaTauri moves up into 3rd place. A bit further down the order, Luca boxing for softs, Thomas boxing early for medium, so likely damage on both of those cars, so hopefully they can get back into it. There's a decent fight brewing as well for what is currently P12. He's got a couple of cars all there. Kendricks with a 3-second time penalty as well. Here comes, what is that? That's Gawoon Jamie back around the outside of Oni with the assistance of DRS. And so the Alpine able to get back out in front. But is he going to hold on to DRS assistance as he makes his way into turn number 11? Yes, he will. So the Alpine holding on for the moment. And Gawoon and Oni swapping places as Thomas with a 3-second time penalty. Moikul, meanwhile, still holding close enough with Wingish, but we saw this a lot in Zandvoort as well. Waits, meanwhile, and Joner, Waits taking over the last point-scoring position, meanwhile. Down the pit straight we come, and it's 5/10 in it between the leaders. It's 4/10 in it between P3 and 4. And QDXC, of course, now into the fight. Yellow flags. That's a Williams round, and Waits out of the session. That's going to be a safety car, and that could potentially really switch up this race. We've already got Pingy diving into the pit lane. And that will neutralize the race for a couple laps, which means I get to go grab a towel. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back with you. Alright, I'm back, and now I have a hat that smells like beer, which I think is a good thing. But anyway, we'll jump back up with the leaders, of course, beat the safety car out of the pit lane as they were through 1 and 2 when that safety car got brought out for Waits. I think just Lou was in the back end as he made his way through turn number 14. So I think it's likely that we see Wingish stay out. Of course, we did see Pingy dive very quickly into the pit lane for a set of hard compound tires. Will Moikul take the opportunity to pit? Yes, he will. So the Ferrari gonna pit from P2, of course, with the opportunity to get that free stop in. Will QDXC do the same? The Aston Martin will hold to the right. He'll be followed by Thule into the pit lane as well. Let's see, anybody else diving into the pit lane? That's one of the Haas duo. That's Joner going into the pits. We'll see if anybody else in the second pack goes in. Speedy will. As will JM. Viperize, meanwhile, will elect to stay out. Kendricks will dive into the pit lane, so we'll be seeing a soft to hard from him. And I believe everybody else has already pit. So it will still be Wingish in the lead from Jamie and Oni. Ali will then be 4th, and Jojo will be 5th. Of course, we'll take a quick chance now to go take a look at one of the penalties. Of course, Kendricks, Thomas, and Thule already with 3-second time penalties. Of course, that is subject to steward's review. If you got multiple track limits warnings for a single off-track incident, so I'll be sure to go ahead and get the race director at the end of the race to go ahead and give that a look. But of course, as it stands, 3-second penalties for those drivers. And of course, this is going to be impacted by those pit stops. But a couple of big winners: Viperize up 8 spots, Curry as well, also up 8 spots. Jojo, another big winner, up 7. Then Oni and Ali both up 5 spots. And a couple of big losers. JM down to 9th. I think did get caught up. Did not have the greatest start, and also dove into the pit lane. Moikul as well dove into the pit lane, as did QDXC and Thuljar. So we'll have to see how their race changes as we continue here. Woo! Yeah, should be a good day. A good rest of your day. Hope y'all are doing well, especially staying safe if you're in the American North or Northwest. As fairly severe winter weather at the moment. Of course, I hope you're all doing well. Of course, if you got any predictions as this race continues, definitely feel free to throw them on. And the entire grid now onto both hard and medium compound tires is Thule actually diving into the pit lane. So potentially the AlphaTauri. So the AlphaTauri actually wanting to get off the hard that he just slapped on that car. So what compound is he going to, and does he need a change in rear wing? He does need a change in rear wing, so potentially getting damage in that early stint and just not having the settings right means he'll have to dive into the pit lane and get that front wing change. So of course he'll come out in 16th. Kendricks as well coming into the pit lane just behind him as he's slapping on a fresh set of mediums. So Kendricks potentially looking for a dual medium set from here, as he didn't really set a bunch of qualifying lap times, or potentially taking an extra set of mediums and saving some sets of softs for late on in the race if he thinks it'll be necessary. Of course, safety car should be in this lap, so we still got a little bit of time before we get back underway. Of course, I know there was something about rain. I might have misread that. I'm going to scroll up. I don't see any evidence of rain as of just yet, but then again, also saw no evidence of rain last weekend out in Zandvoort, and we saw how quickly that came out. Of course, if you want to watch any of our races from recent seasons back at any time, just go ahead, click on that little LSR logo down below the video, and be sure to go ahead and click live, and you'll see race recordings of, we'll see recordings of all of our races, but we're going to get back underway here with the start of lap number 8. And so Wingish now with control of the field, and we've seen this a couple times where Wingish really likes to hold a lot of pace and stay close to that safety car and get back underway fairly quickly. So of course we'll have to wait and see here. So we'll jump on board the McLaren. Of course, we'll have to see when he elects to go. Of course, he can't fully go until Prepare to Resume Racing pops back up. So here he comes around the final corner, still holding off for the moment. The Alpine there holding right with him. And a pretty poor getaway, as he's actually going to get bogged down by the game. So they're going to make their way into turn number 1, and is Jamie going to have a shot? Not quite, as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. A bunch of shuffling throughout the order, as what happened there was Wingish went a little bit too early, and the game actually limits you from when the safety car fully pulls into the pit lane. Here's Oni looking to go down the inside of Jamie, and he pushes him wide. He's on the grass. That car gets recovered, and it's another safety car. I believe that's due to debris on track. I think there were multiple spinning cars. Pengy was a spinner there, as I think was Curry. And I think that comes down to damage on track, because there's no front wing on that Alfa Romeo, and I assume there's some debris from one of the Aston Martins as well, so that's already going to be our second safety car. Yeah, of course, we'll have another couple of laps around under safety car that will, of course, allow damaged cars to drive in the pit lane. They also could be good for our medium compound runners, as it gives them a chance to pit. Ali electing to have that option. As does C. Lucas. Apologies, I'm just kind of explaining what happened there. Yeah, I think just because of, both Astons died in the pit lane as well. But yeah, just as a little quick explanation for what I think happened there to Wingish is, we jumped on board right before they crossed the start-finish line, and when Glue and Jamie pulled up really, really close to the side of the McLaren, you could kind of hear and maybe see, potentially, how much of the limiter Wingish was hitting on that steering wheel as we jumped into that, I believe, T-cam view. So what happens there is, as you're pushing to get started, you kind of really have to wait to start pushing until you see Prepare to Resume Racing pop up on your screen, or at least on our end, that's when that sort of a thing would be, because if the safety car is not fully into the pit lane yet, then what will happen is it'll throw the engine limiter on, let the safety car get fully into the pit lane, and kind of despawn technically, and then you can resume racing. So just as a little bit of a quick explanation for what I think happened there. Yeah, of course, I think there was also a 4-wide incident there at the start. So at the restart, and I think that's what ended up causing that incident, and possibly due to how much the field got backed up. So we'll get back underway with another rolling start here on lap number 10. It also allows me to drink some of the beer that didn't end up on the floor. But yeah, I guess as I was moving the cans of beer, as Allie actually going to dive into the pit lane again. So I think just really does not want to run those mediums. And as well, didn't get a wing change. So that's why he makes that pit stop. And of course, will be now starting from P18. So the Mercedes going to be trying to fight his way back from the tail. But yeah, no more Fleur beer, hopefully. But yeah, I shook it too much. I opened it and I picked the wrong time to spill my beer. And thankfully thankfully or unthankfully, the hat that I'm probably going to wear when I find a place to watch the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Miami Dolphins tonight. I'll have a hat that smells like beer, which might be a good thing, and might also make people think I'm an alcoholic, which isn't completely untrue. But of course, safety car should be back in, and we should get back underway on this next lap. Of course, the McLaren coming into Sector 2 now, with the safety car in the lead, so should be getting back underway with lap number 11. So going to have, what is that? Going to have 19, maybe 18 laps left to go, depending on when we do get underway. Of course, the whole field is behind the safety car, so safety car is in this lap. So hopefully Wingish does give it a little bit more breathing room this time. And it looks like he will, at least for the moment, as all the cars make their way through turns number 9 and 10. Wingish still keeping a pretty close pace with that safety car. So hopefully he lets it get a little bit further. Looks like he will now properly slow down and let that safety car get into the pit lane. Still keeping a hot pace, though. Of course, I think really wants to keep those hards right in the correct operating window. Is going to really slow it down as they come through the final corners. The Mercedes safety car is in the pit lane, but it doesn't mean you can go racing yet. Wingish, though, is going to try to take off now. He's got a great jump, Oni with a load of wheel spin through those final couple of corners, and Wingish with a great restart. He is 2 seconds clear, and here comes the Alpines on the AlphaTauri. There's 2 tenths in it as they go side by side, and I don't know if there's real locking or contact there with William Jamie, but contact between the Alpines, and like we've seen in real life, it's a little bit of a civil war, as now Tommy XXC making his way around Jojo. Vita Viale, meanwhile, receives a 3-second time penalty. Jojo and Tommy XXC battle side by side through turns 4 and 5, but the Alpine able to hold on to P4. JM up into 8th as he tries to sneak down the inside of that Alpine. Oni with a 3-second time penalty. That's a terrible exit there from Kendricks. Moves down into 11th. Yeah, that's a big crash. Loads of spun cars, and that's going to be a virtual safety car now. As that was a Haas, that was Thomas and Luca coming together. There's JM round as well a little bit further up the track. VDV Alley is underway, and I think there's so much carnage that just happened there. Luckily, only a virtual safety car this time, so at least we'll be able to get back underway. But yeah, big incident there between a couple of drivers, and that's actually going to be the full safety car. As the full safety car is out on track. Yeah, there is the full safety car. So once again, a full safety car. There's a lot of anger right now. Oni, Jamie diving the pit lane. Speedy Gunner, QDXC will follow. Big lockup from him. A couple of drivers also staying out. There's just a load of drivers diving the pit lane. Oni actually opting for inters, so could that mean that the rain is coming? We saw this last weekend, where the AlphaTauri opted for intermediates very early on, so could that mean that the rain is coming in the next 5 to 10 minutes? It certainly doesn't seem like it. Of course, jumping on board the Wingish, it still seems fairly clear out. But if you see, as we kind of turn the corner here, it does continue to get a little bit darker now. So could the rain be coming sooner than we think, especially considering how many safety cars there have been? Of course, that strategy for Oni really didn't work out last time out. So maybe he had that strategy set from the start and just forgot to change it. But we'll have to see if he decides to stick with it during the course of this race. Of course, should be getting back underway on lap 13. Of course, you're joining us. It was a fairly calm opening of the race. First, 5 or 6 laps, but a mistake from Waits brought out a first safety car. And then since it's been a little bit, bunch of chaos there. That's an Alpine round. That's Jojo dropping down the order. He's going to lose a ton of positions, and he's going to make contact with the wall, and is going to take damage to his front wing. So he's going to have to box to fix that. So regardless of what happens here, that Alpine going to drop right down the order, and so it's a horror show for Alpine. We now currently sit in P12, and it's going to be plumb last as Jojo almost for sure dives into the pit lane here. As does Oni. I think it was true where Oni just didn't have that strategy set to what he wanted to, as we'll probably see him opt for soft. And of course, Jojo now having to get a wholly new front wing. Of course, so far it's been great for Moycool, especially with these incidences. He's all the way back up into P2. Meanwhile, Tommy XXC and Viperize taking advantage of the chaos behind him and drivers boxing to stay out on that set of hards. As Viperize in chat, rain in 5 minutes. So Oni still opting for inters. I think it might be Mark, but you can call him Jeff too. I tend to from time to time. So we'll call him Jeff, even though Jeff is dead. But yeah, Viperize telling Jeff, rain in 5 minutes. So all these drivers looking to really make the most of these slick tires. Oni actually opting to stick with the inners. Just opting, I think, for a new set to try and keep as little wear on them as possible. But it will be a mixed conditions race, and it got wet very quickly last time out in Zandvoort. So we'll have to see, is the same thing going to happen here in Melbourne? As we'll have to see, are we going to get back underway this lap? Hopefully Wingish is going to give it a little bit more space, and maybe it actually will be safety car in this lap as Jojo does pull up to the tail of the field. So we'll jump up to the McLaren, who's going to have to slow right down, let that safety car get a better jump than he has. Of course, he got a big helping last time, as I believe it was Garoon Jamie behind him with a load of wheels. It was either Garoon Jamie or Oni behind him got a load of wheel spin. Of course, through the final couple of corners now, where will he opt to take off? He will take off now. Did he choose the right timing this time? We'll see. He is back underway, but that gap to Moycool coming down very rapidly. Tommy XXC, though, looking down the inside of the Ferrari, and it seems to be a clean restart. Garoon Jamie, though, able to overtake Thomas. That's does QDXE on JM, but up at the front, it is once again Wingish and Moycool, but now Moycool with both a tire age and tire hardness advantage. Of course, down the order, got the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari right up against each other, but it seems to be single file here on the restart, and we should be now back underway, and that's a 3/10 gap up at the front. And as you can see, if we jump on board, it continues to get darker and darker here at Melbourne. And it's a 2/10 gap between the leaders. So here comes Moycool. He's going to look down the inside, potentially into turns number 9 and 10, as QDXC takes 13th, and Garoon Jamie moves up into the points, but through 9 and 10, Wingish going to hold on to it. And of course, attacking that curb is Moycool. That gap, quarter of a second, a bit of a twitch there from one of the Mercedes, and there's 5 cars all tightly bunched together. Viperize up into P4. That's a spun Red Bull in the back. That's C. Luca. There's an AlphaTauri of Thule looking down the inside of Joner, but not able to make that move work. Pingy a little bit wide as well. Garoon Jamie up into 9th, and up 9th, but it's Viperize in 4th and Kendricks in 5th. And Viperize almost with a big incident there. He's really being the cork in the bottle here, as Kendrick's now going to go up the inside, as will Joner. Here comes Pingy, and Viperize really struggling on those older hard compounded tires to fend off a couple of drivers. A little bit of contact there with the Haas as well. He's got an Alfa Romeo behind him that he's just about holding off. But yeah, Viperize really struggling on those tires. Garoon Jamie, meanwhile, up into P8. He's in this bit of carnage as it's 1-1-2-2 as we make our way. He's going to look to switch it to the outside as they make their way through turns number 4 and 5, but the Alpine not able to find a way through. Meanwhile, up the front, the gap still at about quarter of a second as they make their way through turns 6 and 7, and Tommy XXC right there in the background with the teammate. Yellow flag, Curry and Jojo out of the race, and once again, that's going to bring out another safety car, and that's back, I believe, at the exit. That's actually at the entrance of turn 6 and 7, and it's the Alpine and the Aston Martin coming together. We'll have to jump on board with Luca who, of course, is just coming out of the pit lane. Luca actually opting for those inners. So will everybody take the advantage, take the chance now to dive into the pit lane for a set of intermediates, or anybody brave it on those slick tires for another lap? I'd imagine we'll see Viperize, Wingish, and XXC into the pit lane, but of course we'll have to wait and see for the rest of the drivers. Of course, definitely would prefer to see a little bit cleaner racing, but this, definitely can happen from time to time, especially in 6 and 7, where it's really easy to make that mistake. The leader will dive into the pit lane, and I think everybody is going to dive in behind him. XXC is going to stay out. Kendrick's in. Joner, Kendrick's, Viperize, a bunch of drivers actually electing to stay out, so Tommy XXC will take the lead of the race, at least temporarily, but a bunch of drivers opting for inners. The two leaders of Wingish and Moikul Duel, I think, likely to opt for inters, as does Kendrick's Speedy. Of course, his teammate C. Luca. But it'll be Tommy, Joner, and Viperize, Jamie, and Pingy leading the race for the time being. As there it is, the rain is now falling here in Melbourne. So that's going to be a big advantage. Oni's going to be leading the race with slightly older inters, but he's at the tail of this safety car train as there are those first drops. So Oni likely to lead this race on the restart, because I'd be shocked if we don't see a whole bunch of drivers dive into the pit lane. Of course, I think Tommy electing to stay out as his teammate dove into the pit lane, but we'll have to see if that was the best decision for him. I think we'll be right at that crossover point once we get back underway. But yeah, I'd be surprised to see drivers like Tommy XXC, Joner, Viperize, and Thomas D all elect to stay out, especially as the rain starts to fall. Of course, we will likely have another lap under safety car, as C. Luca is a rather large ways off the back of the field. So we'll have to see who all elects to dive into the pit lane now. As you can see on your screen, those raindrops starting to fall on the circuit. Of course, should be, I believe, 13 to go once we get underway. And there is the train diving into the pit lane. So everybody will be diving in from that front of the pack. V2V Ali, QBXC, JM, Thomas D, all looking to go in. Tommy XXC with a 5-second penalty for speeding. But yeah, everybody on those slick tires is going to dive into the pit lane, which means Oni will lead on the restart from Wingish, and Moikul Thuljar with a great move there. Is Alpha Tauri is in a great spot, as are Ferrari, McLaren as well in a very good spot, as XXC in 6th. See Luca diving into the pit lane again. I might advocate a penalty for that, as that is continuous pit boxing from Luca, which is certainly odd from the Red Bull. I don't necessarily want to accuse him of extending the safety car period, and maybe it's a tactic to try and take just as new intermediates as possible, but that's certainly an odd choice, as his teammate did just pit. But the only driver, a bunch of drivers now on new intermediates. Tommy XXC actually is going to be in a great spot, since he currently sits P6. He was he was the first of those drivers to elect to pit on this lap. Of course, should be getting back underway now on this lap. Of course, we'll take a look at penalties for the moment. Only 3-second penalties all down the board, with the exception of C. Luca and Tommy. So Tommy actually getting a 5-second penalty. Not sure whether that was just a bit of a mistake in the slightly wet conditions. But he is the recipient of a 5-second penalty, as is Google, Kendricks, Ali, Thomas. I think we'll probably get another lap, as C. Luca is still a ways off. So I think once we get back underway, it will be 12 laps of racing left to go. Unless the game elects to EA itself. Viperize saying the track doesn't actually look too wet. I definitely agree that the track doesn't look all that wet as of right now. Certainly not at the rate that we saw the track at Zandvoort get wet. And that rain still pretty light, so you could probably get away with slick tires. But I think how much the rain changes now that it's here could be very, very interesting. And certainly if we get another safety car, perhaps we could see some drivers opt for slicks, depending on how this goes. Of course, it will be 11 laps left to go once we get back underway, and hopefully we can get a clean rest of the race. God, English is hard sometimes, and yes, I know I'm an American. Bite me. But anyway, as of right now, it's probably also a good idea to take a look at the position changes. So yeah, Oni, of course, started down in P8, and of course has jumped up to the top of the order, opting for the aggressive inters early. As well, Kendrick's up 12 spots, so he's in a very good spot as it stands. Joner and Viperize as well with very solid races, up 7 and 8 spots, and QDXC just really struggling. Of course, he's currently down there in P14. Of course, he started in 3rd. Jay, Ali, Pinky, and Jamie, I think also just kind of being a little bit unlucky with when the rain came, and with the safety cars. Now, safety car is going to be in this lap, so only going to back up the field a little bit more as we get ready to go back racing. Now in a slightly damp Australia. And of course, not a lot of spray off the back of the tires of this AlphaTauri, and of course that's when you'll know, of course, when the wet weather really starts to come. Speedy DMing me, constant pitting isn't against the rules. Gotcha. Yeah, I just definitely was odd, and we haven't seen it before. It was just something that was like, I don't know if I love that as a tactic. Certainly not illegal, but just questionable. And thank you for clearing that up, Speedy. And of course, we're going to get back underway as Oni actually going to hold off for a little bit as this track continues to get a little bit wet and shiny. A poor getaway there from Oni, and Wingish actually might have a run on him down into turn 1. That gap out of 10th. Is he gonna go down the inside? Is Kendricks as well able to overtake Thule and seemingly clean through turn 1 as looks like spray starting, and there's Oni out of the race. I think a big tank slapper for him. Somehow no safety car, which means I guess we are going to keep racing, which I guess is for the better, so long as everybody can keep running, but it's the Ferraris in 2nd and 3rd. As we go here, Pingy with a time penalty there. But yeah, Oni out of the race, I think just getting a load of wheel spin, and now it's going to be Wingish and Muy Cool once again, as now that track getting rather wet. Thomas with a 3-second time penalty as well as QDXC moves up into P13. Meanwhile, towards the back, got about almost 3 abreast there for a second as Kendricks looking to hold off Thule and Tommy XXC as they make their way through turns number 9 and 10. The Ferrari looking to help just build a little bit of a gap for Muy Cool. I don't think he's going to be able to hold off the AlphaTauri for much longer. Here comes Thule to the inside. Is he going to make the move stick? Kendricks looking to hold around the outside. Contact there, and the AlphaTauri goes round. I think that one definitely going to Stewart's review, as there's also a spinning Alfa Romeo. That was Pingy getting very loose on exit, as now he's side-by-side with Wingish. Now he was side-by-side with JM, rather, sorry. And he's now in P9, but Wingish up at the front, able to pull out a little bit of a gap. Viperize with a big slide there. And Gloom Jamie going down the inside. Here comes Joner on Tommy XXC. He's looking down the inside of the McLaren, and as they make their way into turns number 1 and 2, the Haas takes over P4. So Joner looking for great back-to-back showings, but Tommy XXC actually going to fight back. He gets a great exit there, and he's back up into P4, so he takes that position back from Joner, as that Alpine almost going very deep. That was Gloom Jamie going very deep and almost into the back of Joner. Viperize in P7 able to close up to the back of that pack as of right now, and as they make their way through turn 5, kind of getting back to single file now in the wet weather. Of course, really turning into Ferrari versus McLaren as it stands. Kendricks looking to hold back as many drivers as he can. Of course, trying to let Muy Cool and Wingish, trying to really let Muy Cool build that gap, being a little bit of a rear gunner. And of course, no DRS means it's going to be rather difficult to overtake in these conditions, especially with how treacherous this circuit can be even in the dry. And of course, Tommy XCC not going to have a spot chance as of right now. Ali, meanwhile, able to overtake Viperize and move out into P7. That's another wide incident there from Pingy, and that's actually going to give him a time penalty. QDXC able to take advantage and move up into P9 on track as well because of that. And of course, that would promote JM into the points. Meanwhile, the battle for P3, here comes Tommy XXC. Once again, he's going to tuck right back into that slipstream of Kendricks, and he's actually going to go to the outside this time as Kendricks look to take that inside away, and he's going to successfully defend into turn 1, but of course, go right in that run down into turn 3, and they're going to go 2x2 now down into turn 3. Jamie's going to back out. Tommy XXC isn't. He's going to look to go around the outside of Kendricks, but not quite going to get it to stick. That is a 3-second time penalty, but of course will go for steward's review, but Kendricks defending nicely, and now Tommy going to be under threat from Joner and Jamie behind him as those three very tight. JM, there's the next recipient of a time penalty as they make their way now through turns 6 and 7, and that's a almost big incident there for Tommy XXC as he and Joner are going to go side by side. The Haas goes around the outside and is going to move up into P4, and now will he be the one to take the next shot at Kendricks and try and fight for that last spot on the podium, at least on track. There's the Alpine of Dwoon Jamie in the background, looking to find a way past XXC, but not quite going to find that chance right just yet. XXC with a big incident, yellow flag in sector 2 and 3. That's for, I believe, a slow Alpha Tauri. I believe that was Thule and maybe Thomas involved. But an incident there, and everybody able to keep it together. But now it's becoming another two-car battle. Kendricks and Joner going to be in this battle. Speedy and Thule swapping places. But here comes the Haas on the Ferrari, and meanwhile there's 4 cars all starting to bunch up behind, and Joner right up tight to the back of Kendricks, and as they pull out onto the pit straight, of course up at the front, it's a 3.4 second gap for the leader. Kendricks able to hold the advantage as Jamie, meanwhile, able to overtake Tommy XXC on the exit of the final corner there and move up into P5. But here we go, down in turn 3, VDV Ali receives a... Here comes Joner as Thomas D going to dive into the pit lane. Gets a 5-second penalty. Here comes XXC down the inside of Dwoon Jamie. He's going to go deep there once again, and into the gravel goes the McLaren. He's going to outbrake himself, and he's going to lose a lot of time. Of course, I think those time penalties, I think, are certainly going to get removed, as he got a lot of time penalties there. So hopefully Tommy XXC can continue, and then of course we can get those penalties removed, as they'll be sure to get the race director after the race. But up at the front, Wingish able to really start to pull away in these wet conditions. Muy Cool also 5 seconds ahead of his teammate. Kendricks, meanwhile, was able to hold off Joner there and has now been able to create a 5/10 gap to the Haas behind him as they battle, at least, again, on track for this P3. And as he, very clean exit there as well from him as he makes his way down into what would be the 3rd DRS zone. Of course, DRS deactivated in these conditions. A little bit slow there, though, from Kendricks, as here comes the Haas now, almost side-by-side for a second, into turn number 12, that right-handed kink there. Of course, he's going to hold back, and I think rightfully so, as it's very tough to overtake there. And another little bit of a Kendricks, I think, really struggling in these conditions, and it's a big slide from him, and that's going to allow Joner to find a way through. SSC, again, with another time penalty. I think that one was for entering the pit lane, as we could see him, he is going to retire from the race. So I think we definitely could have seen those penalties removed, but Tommy XXC is going to retire from this race. Meanwhile, towards the back, Kendricks and Jamie going side by side. The Ferrari with the inside, they're going to bang wheels a little bit as they make their way into turn 3. But as they make their way into turn 4, Jamie is going to have that inside and is going to have the edge over the Ferrari and is going to gain a position. And now, potentially, has the chance to chase after that final podium position as Joner and Jamie, both without penalties as of right now, so with a chance to make a jump up the board with, I believe it's 6 laps to go next time they cross the line. Of course, Wingish with a comfortable 5-second gap right now. Of course, we saw him pull out a lot quicker last time out in Zandvoort, so really cool, at least keeping him honest, which is good. And of course, Kendricks with a good race, of course, currently sits P5. Of course, Joner looking to continue Haas's success, as Pingy also receives a time penalty, as I've also received a request to join. If you are... Oh, it's a big slap! It's a big slide there from the Haas of Joner, I think, getting up on the curb, and I think bottoming out, as there's a lot of spray now. And so we've now got 4 cars really in it for the battle for the podium on track, as QDXC joins the fray. Ali is right there in the background, and of course Pingy not too far off. We'll jump down to that battle on track for P5, as here comes QDXC on Kendricks. Is he going to have a chance into turn 1? The Aston Martin going to take a peek to the inside, but is going to tuck back in and is going to be able to continue as they make their way into 2 and 3. Thule dives into the pit lane, meanwhile. If there might have been damage from him, that's going to be another speeding in the pit lane. He's going to retire as well. Here comes the Aston Martin of QDXC down the inside, and he's going to be able to get a nice little block pass there done onto Kendricks, and so he'll move up into P5. Potentially adds another wrinkle into that battle for the final podium position, as he's pulling up rather quickly to the back of Daewoo Jamie. Yellow flag in Sector 1, that's for the retired Thule. As Viperize as well with a 3-second time penalty due to those multiple warnings. But of course, 4/10 is the gap right now between QDXC and Daewoo Jamie. QDXC really in this pack, seemingly the strongest in the wet conditions early, as that gap between Jonah and Jamie has really stayed at about a second in the latter half of this race. Since Jamie got past Kendricks, but QDXC has rather quickly pulled the gap up. But again, is going to allow that gap, is going to allow that pack to close up just a little bit more. Now it's a 5/10 gap. Just as I say that, so a little bit of a caster curse. Of course, you can see Moy Cool there. Another little twitch there in the background between for Jonah, and that's going to allow Jamie the chance to steal a spot on the podium for Alpine. There's QDXC sitting there in P5 as well, so QDXC could potentially make a run at it if he finds enough space. But of course, a lot of spray going up now as that track continuing to get wetter. I don't think that it's exactly at full wet yet. As if you jump on board, it's really just a film on track. There's not a lot of standing puddles, but certainly could be getting close to that point. So we'll jump to this battle for at least P4, as a lot of other battles are spread out, with the exception of Viperize and Jay in the battle for P9. Of course, penalties could play a factor in that as well, as they make their way in through in the run, I believe, to through turn number 8. Here they come. That's going to be the Williams looking to the outside and going to be looking to go around the Mercedes. As we make our run down in turns number 9 and 10, are they going to go side by side? No, Jay's going to back up for the moment, and Viperize holds on to the position. Meanwhile, that battle for 4th, Jonah able to pull that gap back out, and Jamie has lost a solid amount of time to QDXC. That gap now down to 0.3 of a second. So is that going to allow the Aston Martin a chance out of this final corner and down the pit straight? Here they come down to turn 1. Jamie really looking to break that toe, as he's lost now a lot of time to Jonah up ahead. As they make their way into turns 1 and 2, it's the Alpines continuing to hold station. That gap now at 4/10. So I think Jamie still able to manage these wet conditions, even with a little bit less aero. But I think QDXC just a little bit more grip, and so that gap going to continue. He's going to continue to keep Jamie honest throughout the rest of this race, and potentially try to find a way through. But at least in terms of Wingish, again, would have loved to see him battle with Moy Cool a little bit more, especially on that second or third restart where Moy Cool was on that relatively fresh set of medium compound tires. Of course, we just lucked out to not see that, so certainly got unlucky there. But again, just another really dominant showing from Moy Cool. Of course, took the pole rather comfortably. And of course, not quite as dominant as last time out at Zandvoort, but still a great showing from the McLaren driver. Again, and definitely don't count out Moy Cooley either, as he is very, very quick, and that's shown how much of a gap he's pulled to the rest of the field. But Wingish just recently on another level, and has really been able to pull out that advantage. And that's a big slide there from the Aston Martin, so a bit of rear locking now from QDXC, and that's going to lose him a lot of time to the car in front. Of course, we are now on lap number 27 of 29, so 3 laps left to go. Of course, Viperize and Jay still battling. The Mercedes still managing to hold off the Williams, though not by much as they continue to battle here in the rain. Here comes the Williams. He's probably going to be looking to the inside here. Viperize is going to look to maybe squeeze him a little bit. They're going to be side by side into turn 1 and 2. Later braking, though, from the Mercedes. That's going to be a good move from him. Pingy as well, able to overtake VDB Ali on the run down into turn number 3. So the Alfa Romeo looking to pick up a couple of extra points, at least before penalties, potentially go further if he can get an overtake done on the Ferrari of Kendricks. course, rain definitely one of the great equalizers, especially in motorsport. As you know, especially with that disabling of DRS, and that's actually Pingy wide and into the wall. A little bit of a tap there as the Alfa Romeo getting a bit of understeer. Is there any damage on that car? It doesn't appear to be, or at least it doesn't appear to be visual. So Pingy at least okay for the moment, but almost a big mistake there from the Alfa Romeo, who just made a solid move to jump up into P7. Of course, could be under threat from Ali, but is going to be able to hold him off. At least for right now. If we jump up to P4, QDXC still right on the back of the Alpine of Gawoon Jamie, 4/10 in it, but a good exit there from Jamie is going to allow that gap to open up a little bit. See Luca with a time penalty. Jamie, though, having to be a little bit careful getting on the power. That's going to allow QDXC a shot as they run down towards us into turn number 1. But that gap going to be about 0.3 of a second, so he'll have to wait until turn 3, where he actually runs rather wide there through right into turn number 2. And that's going to lose him a lot of time, and that could potentially put it out of reach as we have 2 laps left to go. Jamie, meanwhile, able to pull up to the back of Joner as a gap at about 4.5 tenths. Almost, looking to go into the back of him for a second and getting very slidey on the power is Jamie. 6 or 7 tenths in it between the pair of them. Meanwhile, Ali and Pingy still battling and looking to try and close that gap to Kendricks. Viperize and Jam battling side by side again, but Viperize once again just managing to barely hold off the Williams as they go hammer and tongs for P9, and side by side once again now down into P5, where the Williams look to duck up the inside. A bit of a twitch there from the Mercedes is going to give him a shot. Viperize is going to defend very aggressively and is going to hold on to P9, and of course they're going to make their run out through turn number 8. We've seen them go side by side here again, and in much a similar way, we saw Pingy go out into the wall. There's JM out into the side, into the wall. Does he have damage to that front wing? Again, doesn't appear to be. So that battle can continue. V2V Ali, meanwhile, in the run out of turn number 10 and into 11, is able to overtake Pingy, who locks up. Where did Pingy go? Pingy is round. That was a big rear lock from the Aston Martin, who's going to slam it into reverse and actually end up in the gravel. So that's going to add potentially more points to that Viperize and Jay are battling for. It's a big mistake there from Pingy, locking those rears as the rain continues to fall. Potentially could throw a wrench into that battle as it becomes for more points. We'll jump on board for the final lap with Wingish, of course, making his way through Sector 1 as of right now. Of course, definitely just, absolutely mercurial in these wet conditions, so a great showing from him as he makes his way out onto the what would be DRS section number 2. Of course, 11 seconds. Boy, cool again with a great race. So we'll pull up the penalties so that way you can see them as they come across the line. Pingy with a big set of penalties, as is Thomas. Ski, though, getting another 3 seconds. See Luca as well, really struggling in these conditions. But of course, Wingish really just able to pull away after those safety car periods expired. A bit of a lock there from him. So wet weather really getting to everybody now. As yellow flag in Sector 1, that is for Speed Gunner. But through the final couple of corners now, it's going to be it's going to be back-to-back after the season break for the McLaren driver. Two mixed conditions races. It's going to be 2 races with the Finn on the top step of the podium. It will be Wingish winning Group 1 here in Australia, and another great drive from him. Muy cool as well is going to be coming almost losing it there, but he's going to be coming out of the final corner and to the line. He'll finish in second, and then this battle for P3 that got very close. It'll be Jonah wrapping up the podium. It'll be Jamie in 4th and QDXC in 5th. Kendricks, meanwhile, is going to lose a position to Ali through the final corner. Ali going to be able to take over, but it will still be Kendricks at least on track, finishing in P6 ahead of Ali. JM was able to get Viperize there, who potentially made a mistake on that final lap. So it'll be JM in P8. It'll be Viperize coming home to finish P9, and it'll be Pingy rounding out the points in P10. Of course, as we waited for these couple of drivers to finish coming across the line for the end of the race, if you haven't had the chance to do so already, definitely go ahead and hit that like button down below, as well as subscribe for when we go live tomorrow for some Group 2 action, as Thomas does cross the line. So we're just waiting on the Red Bulls who actually come together, so that'll actually be the end of the race. So yeah, of course, that race is over. Of course, jumping on board there with Pingy in P10, and driver of the day will go to Kendricks once again. So again, a great drive from the back to finish P6 on circuit. Of course, as we take a look here in a couple of seconds at the podium, it's the Finn on top once again. I believe from the other Finn and the Canadian. I was pretty sure, but wanted to make sure. But of course, congratulations to Wingish Moikul and Thomas on the race. Or on Joner, sorry, I got those confused. But it will be Wingish taking maximum points with the win and fastest lap. Moikul in second. Joner, Gu and Jamie, QDXC, Kendricks, Ali, JM, Viprice, Pingy, Thomas, Speedy, Luca, Thule, Tommy, XC, Oni, Curry, Jojo, and Waits. And of course, real quick, we'll go ahead and take a look through this, just so that way we have a look at everything. And I also unplugged my controller. So, for all of our drivers, this way you have something to look at for penalties at least. As we continue, and you can see all the warnings and penalties Tommy XC got. He's actually going to fill up a decent bit, so we'll go ahead and go through rather quickly, but that will do it. Unless it maxes out at 23, which is kind of a record. But anyways, hopefully you've enjoyed this race, including me spilling my beer at the start, which might be the clip of the century. But hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you either tomorrow for Group 2 or next weekend for Hungary. So be sure to tune in, and we'll see you next time. See ya.